Imagine life's challenges as a storm, a force that can either wash us away or spark the change we need. Here, we're the spark that ignites that storm, the fire that fuels it, and the guiding light through it. So, lean in, open your mind, and we'll realize that we are not at the mercy of the storm, but we are the storm.
Anxiety, chronic pain, exhaustion, they're not random. They're not just life. They're your body asking for help. And most of us, we ignore it. We power through until one day we can't. What if you stopped coping and started healing? What if you stopped pushing through and started breaking free? At ReConnect, we teach you how. Cold exposure, breath work, compression, light therapy, and sauna. It's time to stop ignoring yourself. Start listening. Visit thereconnectlife.com to learn how.
Car accidents don't just wreck cars, they wreck bodies. And the damage isn't always obvious until it's too late. Whiplash, headaches, back pain, even minor crashes cause major problems if left untreated. At Active Family Chiropractic, we find what others miss before it becomes a lifetime of pain. Don't wait. If you've been in an accident, call within 48 hours for a free post-crash injury assessment. The strongest action you can take is protecting yourself. Call Active Family Chiropractic at 602-712-9444 right now. Welcome to We Are the Storm. We're so excited you are here with us today. I am Ashley, here with my co-host Jackie, and we cannot wait to dive in and talk about ReConnect, which is this episode. We have Jerame here, and it's going to be amazing. So let's jump in. Jackie, Jerame, welcome.
Yes, welcome.
It's good to be here.
We're so excited you're here. We've talked about you guys and ReConnect already for probably nearly all of our episodes just because of the impact. And honestly, this podcast wouldn't be here without you in a crazy way because I didn't have that perspective shift before coming there. And it's amazing, all of the work that you do and everything. And I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's introduce you and tell us a little bit about you and ReConnect. And
Well, I guess about ReConnect. You guys already told everyone about ReConnect, right? So
yeah, a little bit.
It's a place for internal growth, and our mission is to guide you back to yourself.
Yeah.
So everything we do there is realistically teaching you how to manage stress, connect to your breath, reconnect to yourself, and guiding you through cold plunging, saunas, compression therapy, light therapy, all the things that enhance your own self-healing abilities. Like, we're just there to help remind you that you're capable of doing that.
Yeah.
And so for me, on my own personal side of things, I've been in this industry for 17 years now, and it's been a heck of a journey. A lot of growth and trial and error and to get me to this point.
Yeah, I'd love to start there, though. I mean, what drew you to, health and wellness? I mean, 17 years, it's a long time. That's a career in and of itself. And then to make that pivot and that switch over to much more of the mindfulness and the healing aspect, right? Because I believe you were a personal trainer starting out. And give us a little bit of background and context about your transition into the healing space, because that's where you firmly reside now, friend.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true. Okay, so I'll sum up a little bit of why I even got into it all. So I was a really thin kid my entire life. I was bullied my whole life, and I had a lot of trauma as a kid. And once I found out about bodybuilding, I was like, wow, this is a great way to stop bullying, not just for me, but to stop other people from getting bullied. So I got as big as I could. I ended up meeting this awesome guy who became my coach, and I started competing in bodybuilding. And that was my first step into, realistically, the fitness era, understanding what this really was. And when I went through that process, I discovered a lot about myself. I started to unlock those parts, to where it actually is what ReConnect is now. But I was only 19 at the time, so I was trying to figure out who I was, why am I here, what is my mission in life. Still didn't know at that point. Now I know, right? At this point, but so that was like the starting point to get me into wanting to help people, because I was finally receiving help. And this guy was coaching me, he was teaching me, and he was empowering me that, hey man, it's up to you. Like, you have to do the work. And once I started to adopt those same type of values of learning to have compassion and support and all those things, I was like, I want to be a trainer too. This is awesome. If I can help empower other people the way I just got empowered, why would I not want to do that? That seems so fulfilling to me. So that's when I got into personal training and started to work at different gyms and find my way through that field.
Yeah.
It all started out with just general fitness because I was young. I didn't really know exactly what I was doing. And once I started to dive more into the science behind biomechanics and breathing and physiology and psychology and like all these things, it started to blow my mind on how integrated everything is inside of our body, that it's all one. So Thomas Myers, he's this genius of a man. He says it the best, that we're like the most advanced plant system on the planet. So like every time that you don't give us what we need, just like a plant, we tend to fold up and our tissue will literally pull ourselves into like the womb position, right? But then we give everything that we need, just like as we start to age and grow, we should be sprouting just like how a plant would. Gets the right sun, the right soil, the right this, the right that, it will literally grow. So will we as humans. So once I started to grab into that, I said, whoa, this is the field I really need to be in, is helping people fix themselves. Yeah, I mean, like really go inside and fix like, hey, my spine is like this, but it doesn't have to be. Like, oh, I have all this pain and anxiety in my stomach. It doesn't have to be. You know, so that's when I started to peel back all these layers of realizing how in depth the human is. Yeah. And that's what kind of got me into this path of trying to really heal myself. Just because I have a condition that leaves you constantly inflamed, and it has its downfalls with it. You know, it is what it is. But that led me down the path of trying to research ways to heal it, because doctors would just say, you just got to deal with it. There's really low inflammatory diet, make sure you exercise, do X, Y, and Z. But I was a natural professional bodybuilder, so that's literally what I did for a living on top of being a personal trainer. So none of it worked. It was like, none of this is going to make the condition better. And that's when I discovered Wim Hof, and I took my first ice bath in my backyard. And then after I felt the immediate change in the inflammation of my body and how my mind felt so deeply connected, that all the pain I've been living with since I was about 16 years old was completely gone, just like that. Wow. I was like, this is the answer right here. But it wasn't just sitting in cold water, is where I took my mind. And this is where I started to apply the things that Wim Hof teaches, and that's that we need to go inward and that we can heal ourselves.
That's really interesting. It sounds like you started with, early on, you had a pretty negative association with your physical body. And then that transformed through your experience of healing to an extremely empowering and positive one. And I don't think that's uncommon. Yeah. I think that's especially common with women. And not necessarily for, a lot of it can be in our mind, not necessarily our size or how we present or anything like, physically outward appearances. It can be a lot of how we just feel about ourselves and our relationship with our body. And there's just always a significant amount of shame that's present for women. So being able to track that journey and change it and switch the relationship, aside from the experience, but the relationship of how we relate to our bodies is really impactful. That's really important. So before we dive into Wim Hof, because I'm fascinated to hear more about that, did you have a comment?
I was just going to say, your story is so beautiful, and there are aspects that are really similar to mine that happened at your facility. And the big thing I feel like is that locus of control, right? The external versus the internal. Before my first ice bath, my first cold plunge on Friday, September 13th, which actually now I love Friday the 13th. It is a transformational day for me. I really had this sense that the world was happening to me. And I was very afraid to make decisions. I was very afraid to do things because the world was happening to me. And then I got out of it. And in it, I realized, no, I'm happening to the world. And it was that shift that you kind of said, is that I have the power. It's inside of me. It's not happening to me. It's not other people's control. It's my control. It's what I can do. I am the storm. It's not happening to me. And that locus of control shift that you talked about, for me, it changed everything. Yeah.
My question goes back then to resilience, right? And that's really the topic of what we are, really trying to bring sincere awareness on developing durable resilience. I think for a lot of people, they'll go through resilient phases of their life where they feel more resilient than others. But durable resilience has to be grounded in our physical body first. We really have to be connected. And so I'd love to know, just through your journey, because you've overcome a lot, with, chronic inflammation and chronic pain, and not only physical pain, but mental pain as well. Yeah. What has that resilience, like how has that transformed you? And, what are some things that you feel are really valuable for other people to know that are listening?
That it's just a part of life, that through the journey of self-discovery, we find that resilience. Like, I feel like it's not something that, it's not like you have to take these specific actions, I feel like, to where it's enforced. But yeah, of course, when we start to enhance specific beliefs, it will dictate our true actions, right? And those actions will represent what we actually do believe. But I feel like the resilience comes from through these experiences and seeing them differently, because I can look at everything that happened to me and I could choose to be the victim.
Yeah.
There's no resilience being built, right? I'm choosing to just live in that little cage. But once I flipped that on its head, and this is literally where my motto came from, it was when I finally took ownership of my life. And that was when the resilience really started to build, is once I said, you were the cause, you were the cure. And that was in my second ice bath, and that came through. And that was when I finally was like, no more, no more, So I think that the resilience, it just comes through these perspective shifts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you can always look at it as that I'm always getting beat down. I'm always doing that. It's like all these things are always happening to me, right? And when we shift the way we see it, so once our actual perception changes, then I feel like we can view it as resilience.
Yeah. It's really interesting because my experience at ReConnect was really I've seen my share of the inside of spas, right? And wellness centers. ReConnect is really different. And I had a very different experience there. And so, we've talked about the model of resilience that we deploy, and I teach and educate people on how to build durable personal resilience. And it always starts with the pause and reconnecting the mind and the body. Because most people largely ignore their body on purpose because it requires a level of awareness that can be quite overwhelming and distracting at times. And so we live from here to here, and that's how we're a little bit conditioned to stay that way. So once we're able to fully reconnect with our body, which is what happens at ReConnect, a distinct feeling of a gym came to me instead of a spa, instead of a relaxing Zen feeling. And maybe that's what you're going for, and I'm sorry if it is, but that's not what happened. Because it was very much a workout, and it was very much a challenge for me to challenge my mindset, to recognize the voice, the fear, and also, yes, I am terrified of getting in that 32-degree tub.
Should have seen
and
her.
And also, I was literally terrified. Thank goodness Lauren was there with me, by the way. And Lauren is there, and she's a healer in her own right. Yeah. I mean, outside of ReConnect, she is an absolute gifted healer. But to be guided through that and to have the and also moment that I am choosing to engage in a painful exercise, knowing that I'm strong enough to see myself through it, and that this is going to give me and release the things that I need to be able to reconnect to my body, right? So there's that feeling of work that comes in the gym, right? I've been in a lot of gyms. I've had personal trainers. I've been through a lot of pain in gyms. And then I've also been through a lot of spas, and it was much more like being in a gym. And so given that feedback, I don't know, how does that reflect kind of what you were going for?
I actually love that you brought this up and that you took it from this angle. When I was creating ReConnect, I wanted to bring nature to people and people to nature. If I took you, both of you, and dropped you off in the middle of the forest, you're going to feel very similar, where you're going to connect to your breath. You're going to start tapping into your senses. You're going to be fully aware of where you're at. Proprioception goes through the roof. All these things that are natural instincts to us will start to enhance. ReConnect, I'm hoping, is doing that exact thing. I'm surrounding you with plants. There's a lot of wood. I went for this full garden Zen vibe, right? But the mentality of it is when you're in nature, the real you starts to come out. And so this whole thing with guiding you back to yourself, think of it like this. Every part of our lives, we tend to put on a mask, build a wall, do these things to make it through to the next part. Like we're trying to be in this state of becoming, right? But realistically, that state of becoming is actually you finding yourself before the world got its hands on you. So when you drop yourself into nature, you tend to snap into that version of you a lot quicker. So this is where the work part comes in, where it feels like a workout because we're not allowing you to numb yourself.
Yep.
We're not allowing you to block it out.
Yeah.
We will literally tell you while you're in the water, I want you to lean in to every bit of aliveness that flows throughout you. Like let yourself feel it, right? Lean into that. We can use specific words, of course, that will kind of ease the nervous system, but it's really like let it suck and feel it. You know, that's like, to put it in layman's terms, is that's a part of life.
Yeah.
When you're starting to feel things, and this is where it's just so difficult to see the world where it's at, of how common it is to allow yourself to numb natural healing or natural human emotion. And it's like, hey, you're feeling this, you're feeling that. It's like, that's literally part of being a human being.
Yeah.
When we don't allow ourselves to feel it, then that's when it becomes overwhelming to our nervous system and our brain goes haywire. Then we have this disconnect from our mind and body. Like that's where that disconnect comes from, is the unfamiliarity of not leaning in to those human emotions, right?
That's so interesting that you, both of what you guys have to say, because I find it so different there. It doesn't feel like a gym there. In fact, I have paired it with such calm that I haven't found anywhere else. And it's probably with like the ADHD and the million different places that my mind goes. There's just this sitting in there. And you guys have compression therapy, which compression therapy is my favorite. The cold plunge is the most transformational. The compression therapy keeps me in my body. And it's, I have a weighted blanket at home and I love it, but the movement of the compression keeps me constantly in my body, and the plants and the music allow me to just be. And then it prepares my body for, as Jackie calls it, she says, the pain that we choose. And that for me is profound, because if I can get through this, if I can sit in this, I don't know if you know this about me, but I hate cold. My family lives in Colorado. I moved to Arizona. I don't like to be cold. I used to work in restaurants and have to do inventory in the freezer. I would be in hat, gloves, parka, scarf. I have pictures of me. I don't like to be cold. The cold plunge is the last place anyone who knows me would ever find me. But, and also, it's the pain that I choose. And each time my body prepares to go in, I reconfirm that I can handle anything. If I can do this, the one thing that I absolutely hate, cold, if I can do this, what can I do in my professional life? What can I do in my personal life? What can I get through that is pain that I don't choose? If I can get through this pain that I choose, this hard, uncomfortable thing that every time I do it, it's different. And we talk about it. Every time you get into the cold plunge, it's a different experience. And the wonderful beauty of ReConnect is that there's someone there. I will sit in a cold tub and they will put their hand on my shoulder. Ashley, you're okay. It's okay. And I'm hyperventilating like a crazy person in this tub. Like, is it though? Are you sure? And it's okay, Ashley. It's okay. And breathe. What can you control? And they're, as Jackie had mentioned earlier, they're guiding me back to myself and reconnecting me with myself in this place that is fight or flight, right? I want to jump out of that thing so hardcore, but they're really guiding me back. And it's such a beautiful experience. And I feel very connected and calm when I get out of there. I have this high that I'm sure there's science behind it, but I have this high when I drive home that, okay, I'm going to go conquer the world now. Let's go.
Enter dopamine into the brain. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, absolutely. I think though I love that. It is the high. And every time we do that, and every time we do undergo, I'm going to say it like it's a procedure, but it's not. I mean, it's magical. But every time we undergo the reconnection, and it's an hour session, and I love that with the format is you can choose based on what you're looking for, because you're not always looking for a calming down.
Yeah.
Right. I certainly am. When I go there, I do the compression and then I head to the water and then I'll do the infrared and then red light. And it's a very calming, you can change up the sequence based on what you're looking for, which I find that incredibly useful first off. But the one thing, and I lost my train of thought, but there's another thought right close behind it. There's a social contract that's there.
Yes.
With a guide. There's a safety there. And I have heard with people that have done some of these therapies on their own, it can be quite traumatic if they're not properly guided through. And I think so what was your thought about the guide, pairing the guide with the therapy? And what are you aiming for? And what are the outcomes that you're really looking for with that?
It all actually starts back with my fitness career.
Okay.
Training by yourself, you have self-limiting beliefs, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah.
You set these limitations because of fear of getting hurt.
Yeah.
Well, I can only push this much weight or go this hard because I have no safety. There's no one there that has my back. So if you have a trainer there also, they're not only going to be able to spot you and be there for you, hopefully if they're a good trainer, but at the same time, they'll keep you moving, right? They're challenging you to stay in it, right? To not pull yourself out. So for me, when I first started guiding people, it was, hey, come to my house. Like I have an ice bath. Like I want to walk you through that. It's changing my life. And so I had a couple clients who were like, sure, I'll give it a shot, And so I just treated it just like I'm their trainer. So I'm going to teach them the breathing. I'm going to teach them how to go inside and how to find their breath and how to go through this because I've gone through it now. And I was the same as you. Like when it was 75 outside, I'm not exaggerating, sweatpants and a hoodie. That was always my life.
Yeah.
It's because I was conditioned to believe that if you go outside and it's cold without a sweater, you will get sick. Yep. If you go outside and your hair is wet, if you go to bed with your hair wet, you're going to end up with the flu. All these things that are these scare tactics our parents have been taught that pass on to us, just a general way of thinking. Really, it's just an American thought. It's not even, doesn't exist in these other countries where they're like, you're fine.
You're fine.
Like, I mean, literally, I think it's in Russia where they put the babies outside and they actually have areas in front of the restaurant where it's like park the, what is it called?
The buggy. Yeah, the stroller.
The stroller. There you go. Park the stroller with the baby so they can see the baby and like let them adapt to the cold, right? Yeah. They're literally building their immune, but they're also at the same time they're teaching their babies how to manage stress. Not only is it helping the nervous system communicate, but it's just giving them these superhuman abilities, which is kind of wild if you think about.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I took that same approach of like, I want to help my clients with this. So let me teach them how to go through the process. So when it came to opening ReConnect, it was like, there's no way I'm going to let anyone just jump on in because once I realized what it was doing to me and how much anxiety I would have before going into the water because I didn't like it. I was choosing discomfort. I was choosing to suffer with purpose. So know that I was taking that step. I'm like, everyone else has to have some type of thought. And they say, even if they're like jazzed up and think to themselves, oh yeah, no, this is cool. I got this, because oftentimes when we do that, we're just masking the real emotion by trying to get hyped, right?
Yeah.
And the getting hyped is only, you're getting more into your sympathetic nervous system. Going to the water, it sends you right to your sympathetic nervous system. So heart rate's already 110. Now it's going to shoot up to 160. It's like, okay, we want to keep you calm and connected. So that's why when it came down to, I need people to just sit in it, to connect to their breath and know that the breath is the greatest asset inside of there because the mind will go haywire because that's what science is doing right now. It's like, hey, we either get in, we freeze, we jump out, we fight, we numb out. All these things are happening.
Yeah.
The body knows what to do. The only way we can connect to the body is by connecting to the breath. And there are specific breathing techniques that allow us to actually stimulate the two nerves that communicate between mind and body. Yes, but a lot of it too is just where we take our mind. So if we use our breath and hone in on where we're at in the present moment, it allows us to experience it for all that it has to offer. When we go into the water, it's just a slight transition.
Yeah.
But if you go into there with chaos, it will be an explosion,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Breath work is such a huge part of the ReConnect experience.
It is.
So tell us more about, how that works, how that plays out, and then almost more importantly, how do you implement that breath work outside of ReConnect? What does that look like?
So with the breath itself, there's so many different breathing techniques out there. A lot of them do work really well, but the truth is the majority of them work because we allow them to work. It's all about our ability to surrender. So it's actually a training tool to get into the water. It's a training tool to have a hard conversation with someone else. So I look at this breathing techniques. You're having a hard conversation with your spouse. You typically do this, blah, 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 get it out. And then you go, okay, I feel a little better now.
Yeah.
So we're trying to teach you how to take that breath before that even happens. That way you're already settled in. Don't let it get so heightened where the emotion takes over your mind. Because when that happens, we tend to do things and say things that we don't want to do. That puts us in a reactive state versus a creative state. So the cold plunge, getting into the water, is having a hard conversation with yourself. So knowing how to connect to your breath and realizing the value that it has, how it can create that transition so quickly, is where the true value is. So knowing that you can take this outside of it, because the loudest voice typically in our life is the one in our head, our own voice. So I can use the same type of breathing techniques of learning how to breathe and connect to the vibrations of my own voice to calm my nervous system, which also teaches the body how to let go, right? So if I'm doing, I'll just give it we'll just do a small example. It's just like that vibration itself will relax into the vagus nerve as well, which is really cool. And at the same time, that vibration connects you to your voice, which helps you vocalize without even having to say words. There's a lot that goes into this so it can be translated into regular life. Knowing that your breath is the fastest way to consciously shift your state.
Yeah.
So cold plunging, breath work beforehand, everything ReConnect it's a simulation for life.
It's incredible. And that's why it is so powerful. And for me, it is why it does feel like a gym.
Yeah.
When you talked about the personal trainer aspect, because I've experienced that. And I've experienced that reliance on someone else's expertise to guide me through the uncertain. And that was what I had there. I mean, and with the breath work though, so do you offer, I know how I've been through your breathwork class and it is absolutely incredible. And you're offering certifications now.
Yes. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about what that looks like, because I'm very intrigued.
So breathwork itself, it's a journey I've been on now for about 7 years. And I just started teaching it 4 years ago. And I took a bunch of certifications and tried to learn from the brightest minds I could find in the field. That's kind of what I like to do. Same thing I did with training and biomechanics. And I noticed there's a gap, and this is just my own perspective on things, is that I think that this should be treated very much like exercise. As in, you go to the gym, you're not just going to throw the bar on your back with 185 pounds and just start. Yep. You typically are like, well, let me warm up. Right? Let me do some myofascial release. Let's do some dynamic stretching and this and that. And then I'm going to do the bar, and then we're going to add some more weight and then work our way up to it. Typically, most breath work is designed to where you just start at the 185 or the 225 or the 365. It's like you just go right to it. And that's okay, because sometimes that is great, and everyone has their own flavor of tea. So I look at it like I would never bash on those things because I learned from those people. Yeah. But I looked at it as I want breathwork to feel like a journey to the inside, just like ReConnect. So I call it resurrect breathwork, because I use it to try and help you come back to life. Because a lot of times we feel like, or you're almost even dead inside. Yeah. And so I created this blueprint realistically, and a specific breathing technique inside of that blueprint, to where it helps slowly open the doors, safely navigate through your inner worlds versus just a huge punch in the face. Yeah. And I say this confidently too, because we've had so many folks come into our classes to where they want to basically hijack the class and breathe heavy right off the bat, and they want to do these things. And so I talk to them afterwards, and you've come to find out it's because they need something to control. Yeah. Like that's what it was. Well, this is going on in my life. This going on, it's like, okay, it sounds like all these things are out of control right now, and you wanted something to hold on to have control. So Totally normal. There's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah.
But that's where the lesson is to learn to lean into that and allow yourself to be led, right? It's kind of like leaning into faith in some degree. Let yourself just know that, hey, I trust that no one's going to crash into me on the way over here, right? Yeah. And so with breathwork and knowing that Resurrect Breathwork and what it is and what it does, it's been shown, because we've had thousands of people come through our doors now to take our classes, and taught probably over 500 now and travel the world to teach it. And it's such a blessing to be able to give it out. And I've seen the transformations take place where people have said, you just healed 20 years of trauma within 60 minutes. And I look at that and say to myself, like, I wasn't doing anything, right? I'm just trying to show you the way that you are the one to heal that. It all ties back to, again, you were the cause, you were the cure. It's like learning that it's not your fault what happened to you, right? But it's up to you what happens next. Yeah. So in these moments, if we can go inside gently and then change the vibrational state of whatever is stuck within our body without having to relive what caused it, this is where the shift starts to happen. This is where the real healing takes place. And there is science on this stuff too. It's the same science with meditation, right? But breath work is a faster way to get us into that versus meditation is a much longer thought out process. Typically the untrained mind is going to have battling for days on trying to figure out meditation because you're going back and forth between your own thoughts. It turns into thinkitation, and then it turns into eventually, hopefully, meditation. But you do things that we do with Resurrect Breathwork, and I'm saying this with confidence, is that it works. It works because I take such a gentle approach at the beginning. So I'm teaching you how to breathe, how to get into your body, how to be creative, how to silence the mind of thought, how to lean into the body of feeling. All of that happens before you even start breath work. And that's only like 15 minutes, but it's the way I designed it to get you into this deep meditative state where we're trying to change the brain waves, start to lean into those alpha waves, and then eventually get you to the theta waves where you're in deep creation level. And people start to say, whoa, I went to this other place, or like I was in my body and I was healing this wound, and like all that back pain I had before I came here, and I'm laying flat on my back, I feel like it should make it worse. It's all gone. How'd that happen? Yeah. Like I took my mind to it and I healed it, like how you said. How did that happen? Yeah. So I see that, and I think that we unlocked something that was needed.
It's such a beautiful thing that you gift people, and you don't even, I think you know it, but you don't always realize the extent of that. And you really have this, you provide tools for people to do the work on themselves, for themselves. And sometimes they need help learning how to use those tools, or they need a resource to be able to use them safely, a place to use them safely, and ReConnect provides that. And it's so amazing. And we are so grateful that you are here, and there will most likely be more, because I just feel like we're only scratching the surface with this knowledge and the opportunity and the benefit and the gift, the real gift of this. So shout out to people where they can find you and find more information, and where your location is.
Everything is the ReConnect Life. The ReConnect Life, Instagram, Facebook, website. And what was the other part?
Where can they find you? Where they can find ReConnect?
Yeah, sorry. Right now, Mesa and Scottsdale coming soon. Yeah. Mesa is on Wrecker and McKellips, and then Scottsdale will be on Thunderbird and Scottsdale Road.
I cannot wait. Yeah, close to work.
All of us Arizona people.
Yeah, I know. I can't wait. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you tune in to the next episode for more resources, more tools, and more ways that you can have that perspective shift from withstanding the storm to you are the storm. Thank you so much for coming today. Thank you for joining. We hope today's episode has ignited a pivotal spark in you and uncovered a fresh perspective that reminds you hold the power to transform every storm into your strength. Share this journey with your tribe and re-listen to uncover hidden gems. Until next time, keep building your resilience, and when you face the storm, don't just weather it, become it.